I welcome you all to the module 8 of this course. So, the module 8 is about cognitive and social cognitive perspective, and today's lecture is actually lecture number 16 overall, and it is the first lecture of this module. So, today's lecture is titled as Kelly's personal construct theory. So, we will be talking about George Kelly's personal construct theory, which comes under cognitive perspective in personality. So, before we talk about today's lecture, let me give you a brief recap. So, the last lecture, that is lecture number 15, was a part of module 7, which was about humanistic perspective in personality. We discussed two specific theories under humanistic psychology. One is Maslow's theory, and another one was Carl Rogers theory. So, the last lecture was about Carl Rogers theory, where we discussed the concept of actualizing tendency, the inherent motivation that all organisms have to kind of grow and expand in their life and make best use of their life, is the foundational concept in Rogers theory, which also describes the detailed dynamics of this motivation, how it interacts with the societal factors, particularly the conditions of worth, and how this whole journey leads to the concept of real self and the ideal self. We have discussed the detailed processes there. We also discussed the fully functioning person in terms of the characteristics of fully functioning person from the perspective of Rogers theory. We also talked about client centered therapy, which is the therapy that comes from the Rogers theory, or in fact it is other way around, the Rogers theory developed out of his therapy sessions. So, we discussed the major characteristics of therapies that are required for successful counseling or therapy, which included unconditional positive regard, genuineness and empathy. At the end, we discussed some of the possible criticisms of Rogers theory. So, let us start today's lecture. So, today's lecture is about George Kelly's theory, and the major concept that we will be discussing today includes the major concepts or theoretical concept associated with the Kelly's theory. We will talk about personal construct, the different characteristics of personal constructs. We will be talking about some of the fundamental postulates and corollaries associated with those postulates from this theory, and at the end we will be discuss criticism of Kelly's theory. So, George Kelly, he proposed this theory which typically called as cognitive perspective in personality psychology, or cognitive theory connected to the personality psychology. Somewhere around 1950s, and his theory is considered kind of way ahead at that time, because of the kind of construct that was given, kind of concept that was discussed. So, we will be look at some of the things that he talked about and why these are considered as a kind of way ahead at that time. So, Kelly's theory, it has some commonalities with other theories like Freud and Rogers, and obviously the theory had also some lot of differences from those theories. Differences in terms of, like, Freud emphasized the role of animalistic forces in the unconscious mind, whereas Kelly mostly focuses on unique rational capacity of human being in terms of making active thought processes and make interpretation about the different situations, and so the focus and emphasis was completely different. Kelly focused on rational mental processes of human being in terms of deciding the personality, and on the other hand Freud focused more on the unconscious part of mind, which includes a lot of instincts and motivational forces. Kelly and Rogers contributions also, in some way there are certain similarities. Both theories were concerned with creating theory of whole coherent person. So, in that sense they were addressing a whole person. However, Kelly's personal construct theory and of personality delves much deeper into the specific cognitive processes through which individual categorizes people and things and construct how they construct meaning from those events in the daily life. So, Kelly's theory was more specifically focusing on the thought processes and the cognitive processes that are involved in interpretation of event and how that leads to various kinds of outcomes in human life. Now, as we already said that this is a cognitive theory of personality, so it places a lot of emphasis on analyzing of human thinking processes at the center of its understanding of personality and individual processes. So, the major focus or the central idea in this theory is that how our thought processes shapes the kind of person we are. So, at the center of this theory is the thought processes, that is why it is called as a cognitive theory. So, Kelly himself did not use the term cognitive, he did not describe his theory as a cognitive theory, it was given as a kind of term that was given later, because he believed that this term is too restrictive and implies an artificial division between thinking and feeling. However, cognitive remains the most popular classifications of Kelly's theory, although he did not prefer to use the word cognitive for his theory, but this whole tag of cognitive theory became kind of an essential part of this theory. So, we still know Kelly's theory as a cognitive theory. Now, Kelly's major work in personality was published in 1950s, somewhere around 1955. At that time, it was not, the importance of this theory was not immediately felt. So, its immediate impact was not significant at that time for several reasons. At that time, it was not fully accepted, and the importance of this theory was not revealed or kind of judged by people at that time. There are certain reasons why it was not popular when it was proposed in 1950s. Some of the reasons are, Kelly's emphasis on complex human cognitive processes was ahead of its time. His theory was very complex and it focused on various dimensions of human cognitive processes, and at that time this whole cognitive revolution was not even started. So, that is why it was ahead of its time. So, people could not appreciate the whole contribution of his theory at that time. Another reason is behaviorism, the popularity of behaviorism, which avoided the study of subjective mental processes, dominated at that time in the academic psychology, and because of that domination of behaviorism, which was kind of completely opposite to cognitive perspective. Behaviorism was not giving any focus or importance to human mental processes. They did not even use the word mind to the extent, and that is why, and at that time behaviorism was very popular. So, that led to so the cognitive the personality theory of Kelly could not become the focus of attention at that time. Third, contemporary cognitive psychology, which directly addresses human thinking, had not yet developed at that time. So, the kind of cognitive psychology that we see in today's world was not developed at that time. So, it was not appreciated to that extent at that time. Additionally, Kelly may have hindered the quick widespread acceptance of his theory by employing entirely novel and complex scientific terminology. He used very complex terms and so on, which also hindered his acceptance of his theory at that time. So, these are some of the reasons why it did not become popular when it was proposed, but it became popular later on. So, some of the major concepts of his theory we will be talking about, and some of the postulates of his theory we will be talking about. So, basically in this lecture we will be giving the gist of his theory by explaining major concepts associated with this theory. So, one of the major concept of this theory is that every person is a scientist. So, we all are scientists in some sense. So, this is the first idea of this theory. So, Kelly believed that each of us, like scientists, attempts to predict and control event. So, what a scientist does basically in the research, we try to predict, control, understand things. So, like this, we as a layman, every human being also tries to do same thing in their day to day life. Only thing, they may not be using proper methodology, but in our approach to understand world is very similar to what a scientist does in the lab. We are continually evaluating and re-evaluating our experiences, using our interpretation to understand and manage the world around us. So, these processes are kind of what a typical scientist does. We develop our own theories about human behavior. So, when we interact with people, we develop certain ideas and theories, hypotheses about what kind of person he or she is, and we try to predict their behavior next time we meet. So, we do all kinds of this mental interpretation when we meet people, when we think, interact with things around us. We make predictions and hypotheses and theories about lot of things, whatever we see or interact in our day to day functioning. And we also collect evidences. If I believe that something is true, I also see whether there is an evidence for it or not. But whole approach may not be like, in terms of methodology, may not be that scientific, but whole approach towards understanding things are very like what a scientist does. So, we develop our own theories about human behavior, test hypotheses based on those theories. we may say this person is not good or that person is not, somebody may be very good. Based on our observation, we make all these hypotheses and assess the evidence also based on how other people interact and what are their behavioral pattern and so on. So, based on these evidences, the world becomes more predictable. So, why we do this kind of prediction? Because we want to make our world more predictable and controllable. If you don't know anything, if you don't know any patterns, then the whole world becomes very unpredictable. So, we want to make our world more predictable. So, we all the time try to find patterns and make predictions and try to understand and control things. And what needs to be changed and so on. So, as a scientist, in this sense, we rely on our personalized views of reality when making judgments which are rarely scrutinized by others. Obviously, our scrutiny process may not be as rigorous as a scientist does in the lab, but this whole approach is very typical to what a scientist does. Our constructs are not as objectively defined as those used by research scientists, but our theories seldom meet the rigorous criteria of conventional sciences. So, those methodological issues could be there because sometimes we may be biased, sometimes we use common sense knowledge which may not be true in a true scientific sense, but the approach is very similar. Essentially, we hold common sense views of ourselves and reality which are prone to distortion and error. Moreover, many of us continuously adjust to views of reality to fit the data, and also many times we change our views based on the new evidences. So, all these things happens. So, in that sense, every human being is like a scientist trying to understand world, trying to make hypotheses, trying to control things. In their approach, it is very scientific. Methodology may not be as objective as what a research scientist does. However, what Kelly says, we may have a distorted views of reality based on our own biases and personal views. They are still real to us because my behavior will be determined by those perceptions. This perception may not be right, may not be accurate, but still my behavior will be guided by those perceptions. Therefore, these perceptions are real to us even though they may be distorted, and we operate accordingly. So, a person may mispresent a real phenomena such as his incomes or his illnesses, and yet his misinterpretation will itself be an entirely real thing for that person because he is believing this is real. So, it is real for that person. This applies even to a badly deluded patient. What he perceives may not exist, but his perception actually exists. So, that is the main idea because we are guided by our belief system, our thought processes. So, whether they are actuality true or not, that is not that may not be an important thing in a sense. Our behavior is determined by those belief system. So, Kelly embraced this phenomenological position of humanistic theories. So, it is a very phenomenological approach in a sense. We all have our subjective worldviews which guides our behavior. So, in that sense, it is a very phenomenological position. Like humanists, Kelly believe we are not passive organisms. We are not like passively whatever is happening and our behavior is guided by those external circumstances. We actively reorganize things, actively think, actively try to change things. So, in that sense, we are not passive organisms. We actively relate to the environment, often in very creative ways. So, this is one of the idea that we are all human beings are acting like scientists in terms of understanding the world. Second important idea of his theory is, the second means the most important or the central idea of his theory is the concept of personal constructs. Whole theory revolves around that only. So, that is why this theory is called as a George Kelly's theory of personal constructs. Now, what is this personal construct is all about? So, George Kelly's concept of personal constructs is the central element of his theory, because that is why this theory is called as a personal construct theory. So, personal constructs are basically mental frameworks or templates that individuals use to interpret, predict and understand their experiences. Kelly used the word construct to refer to the ideas or categories that people use to interpret that world. So, in order to understand world, interpret world, we need certain mental models that we develop, certain patterns, certain belief systems, certain frameworks through which we interpret the world. So, based on experiences, we develop templates, we develop frameworks, models, mental models, certain categories by which we interpret the world. So, this we form from our experiences. So, construct basically include all these mental frameworks or the models that we use to interpret the world. So, we will see what are those models in detail in the upcoming slides. So, this Kelly's main idea is behind that is that we all have many personal constructs which help us to interpret the world. So, we have varieties of construct, we will be looking at some of these examples. Now, some of these constructs or categories are universal in the sense everybody use the similar constructs to interpret certain events. For example, if you and your friend both hear a loud noise and a flashing light in the sky, probably both will agree that this is a thunderstorm. So, the concept of thunderstorm, which is a mental construct, is a universal thing, because everybody will agree on this same thing, because whenever we see this loud noise and flashing light in the sky, everybody universally will say this is thunderstorm, because we all agree to certain things. So, those certain things which are commonly agreed by people are universal constructs. So, this construct will be same in everybody's mind, because these are like very factual events that happens which we all agree on. So, some of the constructs are very universal, like everybody agrees on those constructs. Some constructs may be very personal, but some constructs or categories varies from person to person. People differ in whether they possess certain category or and in where they use it. Suppose, for example, here is an example. Suppose your managers, somebody is working in a company and they have a manager. So, suppose your manager sees you and your colleagues discussing a new project during a meeting and interrupts and redirects your attention back to the agenda. So, let us say in a meeting, two persons are interrupted by the manager in a meeting that they should not discuss something else, they should focus on the meeting. So, let us say this is the situation. So, there are two persons involved, both were interrupted by the manager in terms and given certain direction. Now, both the person may interpret the same event of manager's direction in two very different ways depending on their mental constructs. One may categorize the manager as a focused leader, because he is focusing on everybody and making sure that everybody listens to him. So, let us say one person may categorize the manager as a focused leader because of this event or this behavior. Another colleague may see the same behavior as a controlling micromanager, because another person, the same behavior may be interpreted by another person that this person is very controlling and even not letting to relax or something like that. So, he is a kind of micromanager, managing every micro details. So, same behavior of a manager, but two person is interpreting the same situation completely differently, because they have a different mental constructs about this person. So, lot of these constructs are very personal, very individual, and based on that we kind of interpret the world. So, in the language of Kelly's personal construct theory, you too will have different personal constructs. One is focus leader, another is controlling micromanager to interpret your manager's behavior. So, like this we have diverse constructs, some are universal, some are very personal. The use of this construct would have great implication for the subsequent thoughts and feelings. So, what kind of construct you use, it will determine what kind of feelings you have, what kind of further thoughts you have. So, your chain of thoughts later on and your emotions and feeling will be decided by the kind of construct you use. So, in this case you may appreciate a manager focus. If you have that focused manager construct, you will appreciate him, you will have a positive emotion towards him. On the other hand, the other colleagues who interpreted that manager as a micro controlling manager, he will feel frustrated by the behavior. So, the same behavior, two constructs, two emotions. So, like this it can happen. To Kelly, an individual's personality can be understood in terms of collection of all these personal constructs system they use to interpret the world. So, all these personal construct that we use will determine our personality, what kind of person we are. So, all these constructs that we use are determinant of our personality. So, that is the basic idea of this theory. Now, let us see what are the characteristics of these constructs, the varieties of construct that we use, which could be universal sometime and which could be personal, very individual constructs, or the varieties of construct that we use. All these constructs have certain characteristics. So, Kelly in detail explain characteristics of this construct. So, let us see some of these characteristics. One of the characteristics of this construct is that most of these constructs are bipolar in nature. Bipolar in nature basically means they have opposite extremes. So, constructs are bipolar, meaning they are defined by two opposite ends. For any given construct there is an contrasting pole. So, for every construct generally they can be defined in terms of bipolar opposites. Whenever we have something, we have opposite to that also. So, most of these constructs are in bipolar in nature. So, this bipolar nature helps individual distinguish between different experiences and categories, categorize them meaningfully. So, it provides a framework for understanding and predicting events, comparing them to those opposites. So, this helps us to compare with the opposite construct. For example, we may have a construct called friendly versus unfriendly. So, these are bipolar in nature. So, the moment we explain or categorize certain people as friendly, we also know there will be people who are unfriendly. So, that is the opposite spectrum. So, we can compare people who are unfriendly as with people who are friendly. So, these opposite constructs help us to compare people. So, most of these constructs will have some opposite spectrum which help us to kind of compare and understand the world in a much better way. So, most of the construct will have certain bipolar opposite extremes. So, that is one characteristics. Some constructs are core constructs and some constructs are peripheral constructs. So, that is another characteristics. We have core constructs also, we have peripheral construct also. Let us see what are these two. When we say core constructs, we are talking about these are fundamental to a person's identity and view of the world. A core construct is something that part of your own identity. So, it is a very fundamental construct which defines your personality, which defines your identity and how you think about the world, how you view the world. So, it is a very important part of one's identity. So, that is why these are called core constructs, it defines you. They are deeply ingrained and central to one's self concept and the sense of consistency in how they perceive and interact with the world. So, they are a very important part of one's concept of self. So, that is why they are called core constructs and they gives up this core construct give us consistency in how we perceive and interact with the world. So, we can also talk about these core constructs are very difficult to change because they define you as a person. So, generally it is not easy to change them. The moment you change them means whole person will change, which generally does not happen in the real world so often. Sometimes it can happen, but it is not so easy to change. So, altering them would require a significant shift in one's personal self understanding and the world views. So, the moment you change the core construct, you will change your sense of identity, you will also change the sense of your world views, which is generally not so easy to, people generally do not do that often. So, these are very difficult to change. For example, somebody may have a core construct as honesty and dishonesty as a core construct. So, that means let us say somebody gives lot of importance to the concept of honesty. Now, honesty is a part of that person's identity, that he gives honesty as very important aspects or part of that person's identity. So, the people will know that this person is very honest. He himself also makes his self concept as an honest person. So, his identity is determined by that particular construct. So, he will always behave in terms of those core construct. He will try to behave honestly all the time as much as possible and he will define his life around that and he will reject everything that is dishonest, which comes under dishonesty. So, let us say this is what is a defining characteristic of a person, then it will be a core construct for that person. So, someone who values honesty above all is this construct is central to their identity, then it will become a core construct for that person. So, like this, if there are a lot of important things that defines us, then they will become part of core constructs. Peripheral construct as the name suggests, these are less important, less central to a person's identity and can be changed, modified significantly without affecting one's sense of identity. So, they do not determine your identity, they are not so important, not so central to one's identity. So, we can keep changing them also. So, that is not very problematic. So, these constructs are more flexible and adaptable, allowing individuals to adjust their perceptions and behavior So, this can be changed. For example, somebody prefers tea and prefers coffee. So, preference for certain thing could be a peripheral construct. It is not that important whether I like tea or coffee, I can anytime change. Somebody who likes tea may also start liking coffee sometimes later, it is not a big deal. So, in that sense these are peripheral constructs. This construct might be a part of person daily routine whether you like tea or coffee, but it is not central to one's identity. If somebody loves tea and suddenly starts liking coffee, it will not change the person's identity, So, these are very peripheral, not so important, not so central concepts associated with the person. Now, there is another concept called range of convenience. So, the constructs that we use to interpret the world, they also vary in the range of convenience. What does that means? This term refers to a set of events or phenomena to which a particular construct is relevant or applicable. How many phenomena or kind of range of phenomena to which a particular construct can be applied. So, that determines the range. To what extent this can be applied to different phenomena. The more it can be applied to different phenomena, the range is much higher. The less it can be applied, the range is less. So, a construct range of convenience varies. Some construct might apply broadly to different life circumstances and some are applicable very narrowly focused. So, what is the focus of your construct? Some constructs are broad applications, some constructs have very narrow applications. So, based on that the construct can have a range of convenience, some has higher range, some has lower range. So, for example, constructs such as trustworthy or untrustworthy, the trustworthiness can be applied very broadly, Trustworthy can be applied to very broadly in relationships, in workplaces. It can have a lot of diverse application in different settings of life, in a different range of experiences of life. Trustworthiness can be applied. It can be applied in your personal life, social life, workplaces and so on. So, the range is much higher. On the other hand, certain constructs are very narrow in focus, like liking classical music, disliking classical music. So, this is only in the context of music, your liking towards classical or disliking towards certain music, the range. So, such kind of constructs have very narrow range only in a certain context. So, in that sense, so range may differ from construct to construct. Another important characteristics of this construct is called permeability. Permeability basically describes the degree to which a construct can accommodate new elements within the framework. Means what is the degree of openness towards that particular construct, to what extent this is more flexible, to what extent more elements can be added to that, or is it a very rigid closed construct that nothing else can be added, then the permeability is less. If we can accommodate new elements and it is more flexible, then it has more permeability. So, permeable construct is open to new information and experiences, allowing for greater flexibility in interpretation. An impermeable construct on the other hand resists new elements and is less adaptable to change. For example, someone has a construct of friend that is permeable, might be willing to consider new people as friends even if they do not fit into a narrow definition. So, let us say if you have a very permeable concept of friend, that means you can include varieties of people in your friend circle, not only specific types, then your friend construct is very permeable construct, because you are open to varieties of people in your friend circle. On the other hand, if you are very rigid in your friend's definition or concept, that means you are very only interested into very specific type of people into your friend circle, you do not allow other kind of people. So, then your friend construct becomes less permeable. So, Kelly also proposed that construct could be characterized also certain other characteristics such as preemptive construct, constellatory construct and propositional construct. Construct could also be characterized based on these characteristics. So, what is preemptive construct? So, these are all characteristics of construct, varieties of things that are found in the construct that people use. So, if you see his theory has been very complex and very its reach is very high. So, it was much ahead of time at that time. People are now appreciating all the concepts that he used. So, preemptive constructs are those constructs are rigid and exclusive constructs. So, this means if you have a preemptive construct, it is very rigid, it is very exclusive. Once something is classified under preemptive constructs, nothing else can be considered under that. Once an element is classified under a preemptive construct, it cannot be simultaneously classified under any other construct. So, it is very rigid in that sense. Something is classified as x, y or whatever it is, then it cannot be classified in anything else. So, that is called preemptive construct. So, this type of construct does not allow for overlap or multiple categorization. So, same thing cannot be, preemptive construct cannot be categorized in any other thing once you categorize anything in a particular concept. For example, let us say you have a construct called criminal. It could be very preemptive construct for most of the people, because if you classify someone as criminal, then you refuse to see them as anything else. So, if your criminal construct is preemptive, that means the moment you assign somebody as a criminal or characterize somebody as criminal, then you do not see them anything else. They are only criminal for you. You do not see this person is a father, or this person is a parent, this person is doing many other things, you do not see anything else. You only see that person as criminal. So, that means that construct is preemptive, it is very rigid and only exclusive. You do not assign any other categories to that, only one category. So, this could be an example of a preemptive construct. So, many times we have many constructs which are preemptive, very rigid, we do not want to see anything else about that person, only one category. So, that is called preemptive construct. Constellatory construct, basically, as the name suggests, sometimes some constructs comes in constellations, one connected to another. So, constellatory constructs are organized elements into fixed categories, where the categorization of one element influences the categorization of other related elements. So, there are related concepts of every concept, there will be some related concepts. So, there will be constellation of things. Once an element is classified, it triggers a set of associated characteristics that are considered as a package. So, if something is there, other things will come, other characteristics will come as a package associated with that. So, these are called, one characteristic leads to many other characteristics, because you think one characteristic means other things will come automatically. So, that is the constellatory construct. For example, let us say construct called political party member. So, if you assign somebody as a member of a particular political party, this can become a constellatory construct, because the moment you say this person is a member of particular XYZ party, then you have many other characteristics you will assign to that person. So, if you identify someone as a member of a particular political party, you might automatically assume they hold a set of beliefs and behaviors associated with that party. Okay. So, if that person is a member of a particular political party, that means this person will also automatically will assign ki this person is like have XYZ characteristics, which are the characteristics of that particular political party. For example, all members of a party X are, let us say, fiscally conservative, socially liberal and supportive policy of XYZ. So, whatever mental characteristics that we assign to a political party, if somebody is a member of that, we also assign all these characteristics to that person also. So, that is what constellatory constructs. One thing will lead to many other characteristics. Lot of these stereotypes belong to this category, If we assign somebody of a particular group member, then we assign all the characteristics of the group to that person. So, these are called stereotypes. So, these are like generalized beliefs about a particular category or a group of people. So, let us say if I say women are not good at mathematics, let us say, this is a stereotype which may not be true in many cases, but many people believe that women are not good at mathematics. So, it is a stereotype. So, you are the moment you see a woman, automatically it will come to your mind that she will not be good at maths. Okay? So, this is a stereotype, So, because certain characteristics are assigned to a groups, automatically whenever you see any member of that group, you say this person will be like this. So, those are called stereotypes. So, we have so many stereotypes about people based on their group membership. All these are actually part of constellatory constructs. Then comes propositional constructs. So, propositional constructs are the most flexible constructs. It allows elements to be considered from multiple perspectives without any commitment to a particular classification. So, more like flexible constructs, they enable individuals to explore different possibilities and hypotheses. For example, consider the construct vacation destination. Let us say you are very open to the concept of vacation destination. So, you are not fixed now where to go, but you are very open to go to multiple places. You are planning a vacation and consider multiple destinations such as beach, mountain, city, whatever. You evaluate each option based on the factors like cost, activities, weather, and then finally decide. So, your vacation destination is very propositional construct, it is very open, flexible. You are not fixed key, only I have to go to this place. So, then it becomes a propositional construct. Some construct also can be arranged into superordinate and subordinate construct. By definition, it basically means something higher in the hierarchy, then something is lower in the hierarchy. So, hierarchically some constructs can be organized. So, in George Kelly's personal construct theory, constructs are organized hierarchically. This hierarchy includes superordinate, subordinate things. Any hierarchy means there will be something higher, something lower. So, superordinate constructs are higher level constructs, more abstract constructs. It encompasses broader categories. Something which is higher means it will be more abstract, more broader. It provides a general framework within which more specific constructs are organized. Superordinate constructs help in making sense of larger, more complex aspects of experiences by categorizing them into higher, lower categories. So, it helps us to organize our concepts. Subordinate constructs, the name suggests, these are lower level which comes under the superordinate level, and more specific constructs that fall under these broad categories. These are called as subordinate construct. Subordinate constructs help us making fine-grained distinctions, organization of material or concepts into more finer categories. So, let us see an example. Let us say you have we have a construct called career success. This will be a superordinate. So, we have something called as a career success. So, this is a construct. Under this construct, there can be many subordinate constructs under this higher construct called career success. It may include things like achievement, it may include things like job satisfaction, professional development, and so on. So, like this. So, career success is the broad concept. Under this there can be many sub concepts, like career success may be defined by your achievement, by your job satisfaction, by your professional development, and so on. And there can be further sub concept. Let us say under achievement you can further kind of subcategorize if there are something like that. So, like this there can be hierarchically organized. So, these are called superordinate and subordinate constructs. Now, Kelly also proposed a concept called constructive alternativism. Now, these are the characteristics that we discussed of constructs. Personal construct may have all these characteristics or different categories or types. Kelly also proposed something called as a constructive alternativism, which basically means, again it is connected to construct only, but what is constructive alternativism basically means that people are not passive recipient of the experience. We are not just passively experiencing whatever is coming from the outside world. We are actively constructing our own interpretation of reality. So, there is something environmental stimulus coming from outside, and then we are actively making interpretation of that. So, that is why everybody experiences life very differently, even though they are in the same family, same life situation, because they interpret things differently. So, it emphasizes the idea that individuals have the freedom to perceive and interpret events in multiple ways. We can experience or interpret same event in multiple ways based on whatever construct we have, and they can choose also. So, there is a choice also that among all this alternative what to choose. Sometimes we unconsciously choose something, but many times we have a choice also. If you consciously think about it, among many interpretation I can choose one interpretation, and accordingly my emotions will follow. So, this is very important concept which gives lot of freedom and activeness to the individual, that we are not victim of circumstances. We can make conscious and active interpretation of situation, and accordingly we can choose or decide how to feel about a situation. So, this talks about fluidity and subjectivity of human perception and cognition. So, we are not bound to interpret only in same ways. For example, so this is an example of a case where you lose the job. So, job loss. So, this is the same situation, you can have multiple interpretation of the same situation. For example, one interpretation could be job loss could be an opportunity for growth also. So, one way of interpretation is that you lost a job. Now, this can be interpreted as an opportunity of growth for some individuals. Some individual can interpret it like that also, because individual may see loss of job can be a new opportunity for personal professional growth. So, new opportunity, you can find newer jobs and newer situation, newer more constructive and more job which gives you more growth. They can view it as a chance to explore new career paths and development of skills. So, this could be one interpretation. Another interpretation, another person look at job loss as a setback and disappointment. So, one may interpret the job loss as setback and a source of disappointment. They may feel discouraged, worried and worried about financial instability, uncertainty about the future. So, this could be another way of interpretation. Same situation can also be interpreted as it is a temporary setback, but it can also give new opportunity. So, this individual views job loss as a temporary setback, but also opportunity for new beginning. They acknowledge the challenges posed by the situation, but remain hopeful. So, like this same situation you can have multiple interpretation, and your life experiences and emotion will follow depending on what interpretation you choose to apply. Each will have its own emotional consequences. The person who looks at job loss as an opportunity for growth, obviously he will be more optimistic, he will have more, let us say, emotions which will guide him towards more dynamic actions and so on. Somebody who looks it at setback and disappointment, he will be feel sad and dejected and so on, like that. Consequence will also follow depending on what kind of interpretation you choose to apply. So, that is called constructive alternativism. Now, we will focus on some of the important postulates. These are like formulas or concepts, formulas given about the construct that we use, and it will have kind of influence in our life. So, one of the fundamental postulate of Kelly's theory is that a person's processes are psychologically channelized by the ways in which an anticipate event. How you anticipate about certain future events, that determine how you channelize your psychological resources. So, how do you explain this? These postulates assert that individuals' thoughts, emotions and behaviors are shaped by the anticipation of future event. How do you think or anticipate about the future events? That will determine your thoughts, emotions and behaviors in the present moment. How do you anticipate about your future events? It suggests that people's actions are guided by their personal constructs, which they use to predict and make sense of their experience. So, this is the fundamental postulate of this theory, and we will see there are different corollaries can come out of it. So, from this one postulate we can derive many other propositions. So, we will see some of this proposition. So, number one proposition is called construction corollary. So, it is coming from that fundamental idea. What is construction corollary? It is about a person anticipates event by construing the replications. So, we anticipate some future events by constructing replications from the past experiences. Basically, this means what? An individual anticipates future events by interpreting in the light of past experiences. So, they construct mental representation of how similar situation have unfolded in the past, which helps them to anticipate how similar future will unfold. Naturally, because we need data to interpret event. Now, we do not have any data about the future because it has not happened yet. We have data of the past experiences. So, we use past experiences to interpret future event, possible future event, because we do not know about future, we only know about past experiences. So, the data from past experiences are used to interpret future events. So, that is called construction corollary. So, let us say you are going to appear for an interview, job interview. So, you do not know what will happen in the job interview, but if you have similar experiences in the past about job experiences, from there you can make certain anticipation or prediction what is going to be like. For example, if you have succeeded in the past, probably you will expect that you are more likely to succeed in the future, or if you have failed again and again, probably you will experience this time you may not be much hopeful in the future also. So, like this our past experiences can shape our future anticipation. So, it is another example given here. Suppose someone has a construct of trustworthy or untrustworthy. So, that is a one construct in the bipolar characteristics. So, based on this construct they anticipate events by construing the behaviors of other. So, if you have certain experiences with the people in the past, you have, let us say, experiences with someone who is a very trustworthy person, you have trusted that person and that person also replicated the trust. So, you have an image about that person, that this person is a very trustworthy. Similarly, when future also when you meet or interact with that person, you will anticipate that this person is going to be trustworthy, because you have a past experience of trustworthiness with that person. Similarly, for untrustworthy also same thing can happen. Second corollary is called individual corollary. It basically means persons differ from each other in their construction of event. So, every individual differs from one another because their construction of reality is different. I interpret the situation differently than another person. So, that is why I am different from another person. So, each individual constructs their own unique set of personal constructs to interpret the or anticipate events. Therefore, people perceive and interpret same event differently. So, that is why even if you put 5 individuals in the same situation, they will experience it differently, because their construction is different. How they will interpret the situation differently. The same thing we have given examples in constructive alternativism of job loss situation, same situation, 3 interpretation. 3 kind of emotions they will experience. So, here another specific example is given. 2 friends attend the same party, but their experience can be very different. Friend A may see the party as boring and feels out of place. Focusing on the lack of conversation, he may find the party very boring because he was out of place in that party. Friend B could enjoy the party because he could see it as a very exciting, enjoyable, appreciate the opportunity to meet new people and so on. Same party, 2 people, 2 different experiences based on their personal construct about the parties. Third is organizational corollary, which basically says each person's characteristically evolves from his convenience in anticipating events. A construct system embracing ordinal relationship between construct. So, how do you explain this basically? It basically says individuals organize their personal construct hierarchically, arranging them in a way that allows for efficient anticipation of event. Constructs are arranged based on their importance and relevance. As we have already seen, one of the characteristics of construct is that many times we have superordinate construct and subordinate constructs in a hierarchical fashion. So, many times we develop or evolve our construction system in terms of making something as more important as a primary construct than less important as secondary construct. So, there can be an ordinal relationship in terms of constructs. Here is an example: a professional deciding between 2 job offers. Let us say a person gets 2 job offers. Now, his personal construct or his thought process is like this, that job security or risk is most important thing to decide which one to choose. For him, security is most important, other things comes later. So, this person will decide which job to choose based on, because he is giving more importance to the job security. So, for him primary construct or major construct is job security. So, if 2 offers are given, he will see which one is more secure job. Okay. Then the secondary other constructs he will give importance to salary, location, work life balance, job satisfaction and other things. Okay. So, individual will give priority to job security, and based on he will decide which one has higher security and he will give more importance to that. So, like this his choice and decision will depend on what is his main construct and what is its secondary construct. So, like this it will help our decision of life could be based on these constructs. Fourth is dichotomic corollary. corollary, it basically says a person's construction system is composed of finite number of dichotomous constructs. We have already talked about it. One of the characteristics of constructs are that they are bipolar in nature. So, that is dichotomy. Personal constructs are bipolar, consisting of opposite poles, and we have already talked about this particular aspect. So, that is called dichotomy corollary. Fifth is choice corollary, which basically says a person chooses for himself or herself that alternative in a dichotomized construct through which he anticipates greater possibility for extension and definition of his system. So, out of all the construct that he used, which are bipolar in construct nature, he will choose that end of the bipolar construct which gives greater possibility for extension of his system, gives more possibilities in his life. So, when faced with choice between two opposite poles of a construct, individual will choose that alternative which allows for the greatest expansion and clarification of the construct system. For example, imagine someone who is considering whether to see a new colleague as friendly or unfriendly. So, new colleague came, whether to kind of look at that person as a friendly or unfriendly, what to choose. If they choose to interpret the colleague as friendly, it may lead to more opportunities for positive interaction and expansion of their social network, thereby extending and defining their construct system in more positive direction. So, let us say that person is more interested in making more networks and so on. So, probably choosing friendly construct for that person is more beneficial in terms of expansion of his social network and so on. If that is important for that person, probably he will choose to be friendly in his approach towards that new colleague, because it will expand his social network and it will give him more positive direction in his whatever he thinks is important in his life. So, people prefer to choose things which gives them more expansion of their life, more expansion of their constructs in that sense. Sixth is fragmentation corollary. It talks about a person may successively employ a variety of construction subsystem which are inferentially incompatible with each other. Many times we use different constructs in different aspects of our life, and many of them are incompatible with each other in the different sections of life. So, sometimes this fragmentation can also happen. So, individuals may employ different sets of personal constructs that are incompatible with each other in different situation and context. So, we may use diverse constructs which are very different and opposite to each other in different context of life. For example, consider a person who has different sets of personal constructs for evaluating their work life and personal relationship. How do you evaluate your work life and how do you evaluate your personal life? You may use completely different criteria or constructs. For example, in their work life, they might use constructs related to efficiency and productivity, while in their personal relationship, they might use construct related to emotional connection and trust. So, sometimes this emotional connection and trust could be very different from looking at things from efficiency and productivity. We do not judge or may not judge our personal life or people who are very close to us in terms of only productivity and efficiency, because that is not important in the personal life, but this is more important in the work life. So, this construct may be completely incompatible to each other, but one may use one construct in one spaces of life and another construct which are opposite to that in another spaces of life. So, that is also possible that we may use many constructs sometimes which are incompatible to each other in the different context of life. Seventh is commonality corollary. It says, to the extent that one person employs a construction of experience which is similar to the employed by another, his psychological processes are similar to those of other person. So, the more common constructs we use are used by two persons, the more they will understand each other, they will be more in the same page because their construction system is similar. So, the more similarity in their construction system, more they will be like in the same page when they interpret world. So, when individuals share similar personal constructs and interpret events in similar ways, their psychological processes are likely to be similar. So, they will be very same in terms of their thought processes. Many times we see some people are they interpret world in a very similar way, they all the time agree to each other. So, that means they are using similar constructs in interpreting the world. For example, two friends who share similar views and values might interpret social situation in a very similar manner. For example, if both friends use the construction of trustworthiness to judge people, they are likely to have similar experiences of other behavior in the setting. So, let us say these people generally tend to trust people. So, they will interpret new people or strangers in a more similar ways, because they use trustworthiness as a, generally they tend to trust people. Let us say both have similar construction in terms of trusting people. So, their experiences with meeting new people probably will be very similar. So, this is how it happens. The more similar construction, the more similar life experiences, more similarly they are likely to agree with each other. Eighth is sociality corollary, which basically says the extent that one person constitutes the construction processes of another, he may play a role in social processes involving the other person. So, that means individuals can understand and interact with others more effectively when they are able to interpret, understand the construction process of another person. The more we understand the worldviews of another person, the more we will be able to communicate and connect with that person. Only conflicts and disconnection happens when we do not understand each other worlds. The more we understand each other worlds, more we will be able to connect with each other, more we be able to kind of effectively communicate with each other. So, that is called sociality corollary. For example, a manager who understands the personal construction of their employees may be better equipped to motivate and manage them effectively. So, a good leader always understands and connects with their followers, because they understand what is their worldviews, what is their construction process. So, the more they understand the followers construction, they are more likely to connect with them, more likely to motivate them, more likely to mobilize them. By understanding how each employee interprets and anticipates event, the manager can tailor their approach to communication and leadership to suit individual preferences and needs. The more we understand other, the more we are likely to kind of connect and communicate with that person much better ways. So, if you see, this is kind of summary of what is. So, there is a fundamental postulates. This fundamental postulates leads to many corollaries, like individual corollary, commonality corollary, fragmentation corollary, choice corollary, dichotomy corollary, organizational corollary, construction corollary, which we all discuss now. So, these are like all coming from the same proposition, many diverse ideas. Now, Kelly also kind of tried to measure people's construction of reality, personal construct, using certain a test. So, this test is called as a role construct repertory test. The role construct repertory test, which is also short form called as a REP test, is a psychological assessment tool developed by George Kelly as a part of personal construct theory. He tried to measure, because his theory is very different from lot of other theories. Just using questionnaire may not be the right approach here. So, he developed something called as a REP test. So, this test is designed to uncover the personal construct that individual uses to interpret the world. So, it was designed to understand the major construct a person uses to understand the people in the world around them. By identifying these constructs, the test tries to reveal how individual perceives similarities and differences with the different people in their life and so on. So, I will not go into the too much details of what this test is about. I will just briefly give you a screenshot of what this test is looks like. So, few things are like, first the person has to list the names of people who are important in their life. So, clients list the names of important people in their social environment across top matrix. So, maybe the name of 7-8 people who are very important in the life of a person. So, this is something, the list they have to make first. Then they need to sort these people. So, clients sort these people by considering 3 at a time. How the sorting is done? So, out of let us say 10-12 people list, they will consider 3 at a time. So, they will make circles under their name. I will show you the screenshot, then it will become much more clear. So, they make circles under their name. So, 3 people out of let us say 10 people, they will first consider 3 people and put circles under these 3 people, and they will try to identify 2 people who are similar in this 3 set of 3 people. They will try to find out how 2 of them are similar and how one is different from others. So, they will find certain characteristics in order to defining them. So, they identify similarity for each set of 3 people. Client marks how 2 of them are alike, means similar, but different from the third one, and a space will be given in the right of each row of the grid in terms of writing. In terms of construct, they will say how these two persons, maybe two persons are very friendly, third one is unfriendly. So, like this they have to make certain distinction. Then they have to mark alike people. Clients put an X on two circles corresponding to people who are alike. So, I will just show that that will become. So, two person which are alike will be put X in the circle, and third one there nothing will be put. So, that means he is a different person. Then they will find the construct contrasting one, the clients write in the space right way how they are different in terms of writing constructs. They will check similarities with other people listed also. So, 3 they will take first, and they will list out how those who are 2 are similar are also similar with other people, and in the list of those people how many of them are in similar category with these 2 people, and how many of them are with the similar to the third one who is contrasting person. So, if the space is left blank, it indicates contrast part. So, the similar repeating is done again. So, once it is done for this 3 set of people, then another 3 set is taken and similar process is done. So, how it is done? So, this is here it is a grid, here it is, you can see this is an actual test how it is done. So, here you can see. So, they have this list of people, they said self, mother, father, brother, sister, spouse, ex girlfriend, friend, ex friend, and so on. So, they have list of all these people. So, they will first take, so this is the first column, first they will take 3 people. So, here you see circles are put on 3 people, here it is 1, 2, 3. Successful person, happy person, ethical person. So, these are, this person has not named it, but only gave certain designation to kind of certain people. So, these 3 they took initially, and these 2 were put X mark. So, that means these 2 person are similar and nothing was put here. So, that means this person is a contrast person, these 2 are similar and this third person is different person. So, then here they have to write how it is different. So, these 2 person who are similar, so that similarity pole here shows do not believe in God. So, these 2 person who are similar, basically they do not believe in God. So, that is the similarity. This third person, ethical person, how he is different from these 2 person, he is very religious. So, they have to write these constructs. Now, they can see in the list of all these persons who are similar to this similarity pole, these 2 person who are similar, and how many of them are same to the third person. So, whoever is similar will be put tick here. So, that means this ex girlfriend, rejected person, threatening person, they are also similar to the similarity pole, this 2 person, that is they do not believe in God, and all these are left vacant, means no tick mark, that means they are all similar to the third person, very religious. So, all this self, mother, father, brother, everybody are where there is no tick mark, that means they are very religious, same to the contrasting person. So, like this they put second time they put another set of 3 people, like here they used accepted teacher, rejected teacher, boss. Like this the process was continued, and so they will get a lot of constructs that people use in interpreting the world and people around them, and this gives an kind of screenshot of different important construct that this person uses. So, this is how test is done. So, this number of constructs utilized varies among clients, with some sorting people only few dimensions, some people use only very few constructs, some people may use varieties of constructs. So, this gives an indication of different constructs people use. Now, at the end let us see some of the criticism of this theory. One thing is that some people say this has a limited scope in terms of only focusing on thought processes, cognitive processes, and not looking at biological factors, unconscious factors and other thing, which is the criticism for almost every theory, because every theory cannot look into all the factors, they can only focus on certain factors. So, in that sense every theory is limited theory. Okay? So, it is a generalized limitation. Some say it is too much of emphasis on rationality, which is only an important as one aspect of human personality. There can be many other things which was not focused on this theory. So, Kelly's theory emphasizes rational and conscious processes in construct theory only. Critics argue that it downplays many irrational component of human thought process. Humans are not all the time logical and rational. There are so many unconscious emotional factors. All these things were not given much importance, but this is what theory is all about. It is only focusing on certain aspect only. Therapeutic efficacy, people generally say these role construct rep test and the technique derived from this theory can be useful. Some therapists, you find them however too abstract and too complex in terms of actually applying it in the real life. So, some people say, because of the complexity involved in it, sometimes directly applying it can become more challenging. So, Kelly's career primarily involved working with most of the normal intelligent people, because he was focusing on cognitive rational processes. So, for him, so therefore, applying to other kind of groups, this theory may be little problematic, like people who are pathological and certain mental disorders. Probably it may not be that suitable in terms of applying lot of these ideas. Unlike Freud and Erikson, Kelly did not address early childhood experiences or any stages of maturity, old age, and he did not focus on developmental aspects and cultural factors. So, a lot of these things were not considered. So, these are some of the criticism which are not really very strong criticism, because the theory was focusing only cognitive factors. From that perspective, this theory has a lot of advantages, but obviously this theory did not and cannot take hold or consider everything else, so many other factors which can influence human behavior. So, with this I stop here, and we will be talking about some other theories in the next lecture. Thank you.